Awards, an initiative brought to you by Department of English in association with JK Paper and the Times of India. Our college anthem is a potent reminder of our commitment and our duties. I request you all to stand for the SET anthem.
सत्त्वभरित तत्त्वपूर्ण ध्येय संयुता शेषाद्रिपुर विद्या संस्था जयतु सर्वदा शारदाम्ब करुणया सीमयान्वहम् मौल्यमय शिक्षणे दीक्षितव्रता संस्कृतिसहिता समृद्धिभिर्युता सद्कीर्तिराजिता नैकाभिः सह विभूषिता विश्वस्तर विद्या सुकौशलमतिदा समाजाभिवृद्धिपर कार्यतत्परा सत्कर्म धर्म सुगुण शान्ति बोध दृष्टिदा समत्वसाधिका लोकमानिता आनन्दामृतदा सत्त्वभरित तत्त्वपूर्ण ध्येय संयुता शेषाद्रिपुर विद्या संस्था जयतु सर्वदा जयतु सर्वदा जयतु सर्वदा जयतु सर्वदा
Teach India, as you might know, is a CSR initiative of the Times of India, working relentlessly since 2011 with children and youth to enhance their skills in the field of education and communication. The initiative is implemented on the ground through the partner NGOs and volunteers, currently operational in Pan-India. Their projects are curated and executed by the best educationists and professionals in their respective fields. Their initiatives include spoken English classes for employable youth, modules on oral hygiene and road safety, National Payment Corporation of India, Rural Digital Literacy Program, PNG Digital Financial Literacy for Youth, HCL Jigsaw Critical Reasoning Olympiad, Times of a Better India Movement, Caption Contest, One Word Contest, Tata Salt Har Sawal Uthega, Indian Army Quiz Program, HP Fun Worksheets for Children. Author Awards is a platform to encourage women authors to express their creativity and fondness for writing. It is a celebration of the art of storytelling by women writers. This initiative wishes to acknowledge exemplary pieces of writing by women authors to inspire and motivate more women to take up writing, pen that story, and feel proud of their accomplishments. On 29th October this year, they launched Season 5 of Author Awards. Over the last 4+ years, they have seen more than 5,500 entries in various categories from across the country, and more than 70 eminent personalities have been associated with the awards journey. As we said to start our event, it is rightly said, prayer is not an asking, it is a longing of the soul. I would like to call upon stage team Antardhwani to present the invocation song.
सदानन्दनर्तन गणपतिं भावये सदानन्दनर्तन गणपतिं भावये चिदाकार मूलाधार ओंकार गजवदनं परमं परमानन्दनर्तन गणपति भावये चिदाकार मूलाधार ओंकार गजवदनं परमं परमानन्दनर्तन गणपति भावये सानंद्र मुनीन्द्र गणनुत शिव शंकर मानस निलीनमानं सानंद्र मुनीन्द्र गणनुत शिव शंकर मानस निलीनमानं तंत्रीलय समन्वित गंधर्व चारण वरानुकीयमान तंत्रीलय समन्वित गंधर्व चारण वरानुकीयमान दीन जन मंदार मनुपम दिव्य कलेबर शुभायमानं दीन जन मंदार मनुपम दिव्य कलेबर शुभायमानं भासमानं असमानं भजमानं भक्त जन सम्मानं भासमानं असमानं भजमानं भक्त जन सम्मानं ಮಗ ಮಗ ಸ ಸ ಸರಿ ಸ ತಕ ಥಣ ಕುಧಿಮಿ ತಕಿಟ ತಳಾಂಗು ತಕ ಪಾಪ ಮಗ ಮಗ ಸ ಸ ಸ ಸರಿ ಸ ತಕ ಥಣ ಕುಧಿಮಿ ತಕಿಟ ತಳಾಂಗು ತಕ ಪಾಪ ಮಗ ಮಗ ಸ ಸ ಸ ಸರಿ ಸ ತಕ ಥಣ ಕುಧಿಮಿ ತಕಿಟ ತಳಾಂಗು ತಕ ಧೀಮಿ ಧೀಮಿ ತದಾ ತಯ್ಯತಾ ತಾಂ ಜಣಂ ದರಿತಾ ತಕ ಜಣಂ ಜಣಂ ದರಿತಾ ತಾಂ ಜಣಂ ದರಿತಾ ತಕ ಜಣಂ ಜಣಂ ದರಿತಾ ತಾಂ ಜಣಂ ದರಿ ದಣಂ ಜಣಂ ದರಿ 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 ತಧಿಮಿ ಧಿಮಿ ಧಿಮಿ ತಕಿಟ ಕಿಟ ಕಿಟ ತ ಜಣು 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 ದಿವಿ ಪದನುತಂ ಪರಸರ ಸಿಜಂ ಮಗ ಪಪನಿ ಪ ಮರಕತನಿ ಬಂ ಮರಕರಿ ಮುಖಂ ಪ್ರಣವರಿನತಂ ಅಗಿತಂ ಅನಗಂ ಶುಭಗಂ ಪರಂ ಕನಕಾಂಬರಧರಂ ಏಕರದನಂ ತದ್ದಿತ್ತಕ ಜಣೋ ತನಕ ದರಿದಿತ್ತಕ ಜಣು ತನಕ ಧರಿತಾಂ ತದ್ದಿತ್ತಕ ಜಣೋ ತನಕ ದರಿದಿತ್ತಕ ಜಣೋ ತನಕ ದರಿತಾಂ ತದ್ದಿತ್ತಕ ಜಣೋ ತನಕ ದರಿದಿತ್ತಕ ಜಣೋ ಜಣೋ ಪರಮಾನಂದನ ತನ ಗಣಪತಿಂ ಭಾವಯೇ ಚಿದಾಕಾರ ಮೂಲಾಧಾರ ಓಂಕಾರ ಗಜವದನಂ ಪರಮಂ ಪರಮಾನಂದನ ತನ ಗಣಪತಿಂ ಭಾವಯೇ.
Thank you. Now I would like to call upon the stage my co-anchor Tushara to present the welcome address.
Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed dignitaries and honored guests, a warm and gracious welcome to each one of you. Today, as we gather in the spirit of social responsibility, it is truly an honor to have such distinguished personalities in our midst whose presence adds immense value to this occasion. I am profusely elated to take an opportunity to welcome our chief guest of the day, Ms. Rheea Mukherjee, the interviewer from Teach India, Ms. Shilpa Narayan, our chairman, M.S. Natraj sir, in his absentia, our beloved principal, Dr. B.G. Bhaskara sir, head of Department of English, Dr. Sapna G.S. ma'am, and our office superintendent, Savita Bai ma'am. I also like to welcome Chandrasekhar sir from JK Papers. With equal pleasure, I welcome the Department of English, other teaching and non-teaching staff, and lastly, my fellow students. A tiny sapling can feed the world, and a small hope can lead the lives. As a gesture of warm welcome, I invite Dr. B.G. Bhaskara sir, the principal, to give a sapling to our chief guest, Ms. Rheea Mukherjee. Thank you, sir. I request Dr. Sapna G.S. ma'am, Head of English Department, to give the sapling to Ms. Shilpa Narayan and Dr. B.G. Bhaskar sir. I request Dr. Sapna ma'am to give the sapling to Chandrasekhar sir. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. I request Ms. Geeta, Assistant Professor of English Department, to give the sapling to Dr. Sapna G.S. ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. May these small trees symbolize the roots of our connections and the flourishing of shared ideals among us. As our esteemed dignitaries are invited to grace the occasion by lighting the ceremonial lamp, symbolizing the illumination of knowledge, I would like to call upon the stage Team Antardhwani to chant the shloka while the dignitaries light the lamp. I would request everyone to stand. Kindly take your seats. Thank you, everyone. We are glad to have Ms. Rheea Mukherjee with us today. Ms. Rheea Mukherjee, an accomplished author whose latest novel, The Girl Who Kept Falling in Love, promises to be a groundbreaking exploration of love, activism, and cultural identity. She is celebrated for her debut novel, The Body Myth, which was shortlisted for the Tata Literature Life First Book Award in 2019. She has been featured in prominent publications such as the Los Angeles Times, BuzzFeed, and Electric Literature. Beyond her literary achievement, she has co-founded the Bangalore Writers' Workshop in 2012 and Write Leela Write, a design and content laboratory in Bangalore. With a background in social work and an MFA in creative writing, she brings a unique perspective to her writing, drawing from her experiences as a counselor, advocate, and her life split between the US and India. She is not just an author, but also a passionate advocate for social justice, animal rights, and mental health awareness. Her ideologies are firmly rooted in challenging societal norms, pushing for radical kindness, and disrupting the status quo. Critical of dominating cultures and nationalist narratives, her voice stands bold for feminism that embraces all marginalized voices. Aligning with the far left while maintaining a critical stance, she emphasizes the need for feminism to include all who have been marginalized by patriarchy. She addresses rising Islamophobia in India, challenges the labels imposed on individuals, and offers a nuanced perspective on the American dream, drawing from her unique background as the child of Indian immigrants. Her openness about her struggles with depression and ADD brings a humanizing element to her advocacy for mental health awareness. As a vegan, she goes beyond mainstream notions of veganism, advocating for a comprehensive discussion on the treatment of animals and its intersections with complex realities. In her upcoming novel, The Girl Who Kept Falling in Love, she takes readers on a journey through the life of Kaya, a 40-year-old first-generation Indian American navigating love and identity in present-day urban India. The narrative weaves through global aspirations, institutionalized hate, and the pursuit of love and acceptance. Kaya's story challenges mainstream narratives, touching on themes of reverse immigration and queer experiences in urban India. As a host of this event, it gives me immense pleasure to have you with us today, ma'am. Thank you, everyone. The Department of English, under the banner of the Department Club, Kaleidoscope, had conducted interclass competitions called Literary Fest with a Twist from 26th to 31st October 2023. I request Ms. Rheea Mukherjee to grace the stage and do the honors of distributing the prizes. I request the dignitaries on the desk to join in. The winners of the event Tube Talk are Vishnu Singh Bhati of 2nd BCom H, first prize. Bhargavi T of 1st BCom A, second prize. Deepa Rani Biswal of 2nd BCom I, third prize. The winners of the event English Winglish are Ananya S of 2nd BCom F, first prize. Rakshita R of 2nd BCom H, second prize. Nisha P of 2nd BCom H, third prize. The winners of the event Movie Meter are Chayank D of 1st BCom G, first prize. Sanjay S of 2nd BCom D, second prize. Sunil Kumar of 2nd BCA B, third prize.
Give a huge round of applause for the winners. The prizes are gift vouchers from JK Papers? Sapna Bookstores. Thank you, ma'am. Congratulations to all the winners. Now I would like to invite our principal, Dr. B.G. Bhaskara, sir, to come forward and deliver the presidential address.
Morning. Madam Madam Rheea Mukherjee, Madam Shilpa from Times of India, Mr. Chandrasekhar from JK Paper, Dr. Sapna, my colleague and HOD Department of English, and teaching and non-teaching staff, and my dear students. In fact, this is a very unique program from Times of India and JK Papers. It is told that it is book reading session. And when I was speaking to Madam Rheea Mukherjee, I was told it's a workshop on writing also. So, in fact, both reading and writing is most important. Most of you here are commerce, management, and computer science students. Usually what we normally do is we stick on to our subjects, concepts, subjects, textbooks. Textbook reading is different, and reading the other is entirely different. In fact, all of us, we suggest that at least one should read 2 books, 2 novels in a year, at least 2 novels in a year. And reading newspapers is mandatory for all of us. If you do not read newspapers daily on day-to-day basis, at least 1 or 2 newspapers, you will not be updated. And in addition to that, I think when we were students, our teachers used to tell us at least read 2 novels and 1 drama. I don't know why drama. Maybe it is to improve the communication skills. So we must do it. But maybe not only we are all busy, you are also very busy with your cell phones, and and reading habit is gone down. But please remember that, please read newspapers on day-to-day basis, at least 2 newspapers. One in your mother tongue and the other one in the other language, maybe in Hindi or English or any other language of your choice. And next, at least 2 novels. I have read a few novels of Kuvempu, Purnachandra Tejasvi, Shivaram Karanth. That's in my language. I have read many novels in the past. But in the recent years, even I am not also getting much of time, but I have not left reading newspapers. And in fact, writing skills, I think I have not made any attempt of making any writing, because this kind of a workshop was not conducted for us earlier. If at all any such workshop was conducted, I think I would have made an attempt to write something, but I did not do it. But you have got an opportunity now, and you will be having a session with Rheea Mukherjee, a well-known author. I have read at least 1 or 2 articles about her in the past, maybe in Deccan Herald or other newspaper. I don't exactly remember, but I think you have got an opportunity. About 200 who are sitting here, at least 20 may become good writers in the future. And I wish this particular session a grand success. All the best. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. A much awaited moment has arrived now. On behalf of everyone, I request our renowned author, Ms. Rheea Mukherjee, to take over. I request the dignitaries to take their seats amidst the audience. Now, Ms. Shilpa Narayan, the interviewer from Teach India, will unravel Ms. Rheea Mukherjee's signatory craftsmanship, offering us insights into the creative process, thematic explorations, and profound impact of her work on the literary landscape under Teach India program.
Okay, good morning everyone. How are you all? There's no energy levels. Little louder. Yes, very loudly. Fine, yeah, fine, with Josh, yeah. You can, this is not. No, I want with the bang, I'll say 1, 2, 3, I want with chorus. Is that fine? Let us see the Josh. Ready? 1, 2, 3, start. Ah, that's good. That's interesting. Now let's begin. Shall we begin, Rhea?
Yeah, let's start.
Okay. Shall we start, students? Okay, chalo. Okay, very, very warm welcome to you, Rhea. It's really interesting to have you here. So, I'll just start with the first question. The basic question is I believe that a person's interest has got to do with a lot of learning, right? So, it's a twofold question. Like, were you interested in writing from the beginning? And when did you realize that it's your calling since you are quite young? So, yeah.
That's an excellent question. So when I was growing up, guys, I was, God, I'm very old, okay? So we didn't have a choice. We didn't have phones back in our day, right? So when I was 10,
Correct.
11, to entertain ourselves, I would read everything I could get my hands across, right? So there was like Reader's Digest, there were newspapers, there were novels I was not supposed to read that my aunt hid, but I used to read them anyway, magazines, everything. And then obviously when as time passed, I think everybody now suffers from very lowered retention because we all have our cell phones, me included. But I always did like to read because it was a world for me to have where I could process the world by myself and not have to, like show something to the world because I didn't really fit in as a kid. I was bad at school, terrible student in traditional school, regular school. I only started getting way better after my PUC because then I was doing subjects I loved and I started writing. So yes, to answer your question, I think I knew very early on that I wanted to be a writer, but do you think it takes a long time for you to actually have that confidence that, okay, I'll do this somehow?
Oh, that's interesting, isn't it, students? Yeah? So how many of you are also thinking here to become writers? Anyone here? Oh, look at that. What's your name, child? Bhargavi. Bhargavi, good luck, good luck, good. You actually decided at least. Yeah, thank you. Okay, going on to the next question now, Rhea. Your novel, which is the name, has an interesting name, The Girl Who Kept Falling in Love. So how do you think of such a name? Because it's quite different from the other name and that adds to a lot of curiosity because the book is not actually falling in love all the time.
No. Yeah, so the title of the book, which you see here, is, a lot of people think it's a rom-com. It's not. It's a larger idea of what love can also be. So yes, there's lots of romantic love. But when you look at life, an indicator that you're always growing or always seeing the world. See, like all of us sitting over here have a bias. We're thickly socially conditioned, whether you like it or not, whether you think you're the most broad-minded person, we all are conditioned. So that means every day is a new opportunity to break that conditioning, to look at the world from a different perspective. And if you're doing that, you constantly find, yes, people and other spaces and platforms and things to do that you're constantly falling in love with. So therefore, falling in love consistently means you're growing as a person and you're not stagnating in one space.
That's interesting. So that's really amazing. How is this book how is this book different from your earlier book?
I think my first book was very, it was mainly about 3 characters and it was very intense. This book talks a lot more about the lens that I kind of had experience with, which is, my parents immigrated to the US in the 80s. And I grew up with a lot of Indian Americans growing up there. But my parents did something very different for that time, which was in 1993, they decided that instead of being in the US, they wanted to move us back to India. And they randomly chose Bangalore. They didn't have roots to Bangalore. They have roots in Calcutta, but they just wanted to move back to India. So we moved back to India when I was 10 years old. And I did my schooling here. And then when I was 18, my family again wanted to move back to the US.
US?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we went to another, I did my college and all of that over there for like 10 years. And then I came back here. But the thing is, my perspective I got to see 2 very different worlds. And obviously I couldn't fit into one perfectly. but I got to see one side of actually, because my parents actually never lived their adulthood in India, which is so weird to me because, you know, I lived my adulthood in India.
Okay.
But even though my parents were. So there's just so many different insights and different things that I got from that I wanted to apply to this book, which I have, yeah.
Oh, it's connected, that means.
Definitely.
Yeah,
there's parts like that.
that's interesting. That's really interesting. So while you're writing this book, was there any kind of thought process? Because this book caters to a particular niche audience.
Yeah.
So how could you manage that?
I mean, it's definitely for the problem is, see, listen, we're living in a world where they will put you in a niche market, right? You're writing about certain things, so this is critical, this is social justice, this is left wing. These are all labels. I would so yes, it is niche in that way. Does it become a problem? Yes, because a lot of people will just not want to read it because based on these labels.
Correct.
But my point as a writer is that can you communicate to the world? And this is where writing is not just about writing novels, right? You're all in commerce and business and computer science. Communication skills, how you communicate with the world is one of the most important skills you're going to have when you do anything in life. So to actually hone those skills is actually going to help you articulate and stand up for yourself, and is going to, by doing that, you're going to stand up for others through being able to advocate for yourself. So in this book, I had to write certain truths which I feel is I think it's very both critical of America, it's very critical of India as well. And when you look at that, and a critical eye is something that you look at and question. The things we've been taught, to normalize. And then it's up to the reader to see how they want to take that.
True. Yes, very true. But again, it's incredible experience what you had there.
Yes.
Okay.
Many
of them don't
very
get
confusing.
it.
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah. So, can I just request you to read an excerpt from this book?
Yeah.
Especially which describes about the main character, Kaya.
So I was telling you, I'm not going to bore you reading a part of the book that is about the main character because you need a lot of context, and if you feel like reading a novel, it's a short novel, you can pick it up, you can read it. But in this book, within the main narrative, there are these urban myths, these stories within stories that I've written.
Definitely.
And I thought, how many of you all from here are from Bangalore? Or Bangalore generally?
Bangaloreans.
Yeah, lots of Bangaloreans, yeah.
Oh.
Does anybody in the generation that remembers Naleba? Yes? Naleba.
Naleba. Okay, Naleba. Okay.
Naleba.
Naleba.
So, that, I don't know who remembers this, but it was basically, I mean, there were many types of these stories that there was a time in Bangalore where you'd hear a knock on the door or some old woman ghost was coming around, right? But so people started putting in Kannada Naleva, which means come back tomorrow, on the door. So these are what we call urban myths, which means how did they start? We're not sure, but it becomes very popular in culture, or a story that you pass down that might be half true, half a lie, or just half a gossip. So these are what I call urban myths. So I'm reading one that is I made up in Bangalore. So I'll just read it. It's called, and it's only like 3 pages. So I don't think you'll get bored. Hopefully not. Okay, so this is urban myth 3. The woman who was of marriageable age. It happened in the sleepy town of Bangalore in the early 1980s. On a middle-class residential street where children played cricket in the evenings on the narrow tar roads. In those days, cars hardly passed through these lanes. Back then, there were more sparrows, and the only loud voices you would hear, apart from the children's, were the morning vegetable vendors who yelled out their price as they creaked by their wooden carts laden with tomatoes, ridge gourd, curry leaves, and pumpkins. The only other people on the street would have been the housewives, emerging simultaneously to bargain with the vendor and exchange pleasantries with their neighbors, before walking away with their jute bags filled with vegetables. Sometimes a gang of pre-teens would assemble by the empty plot of land that lay between the houses and chit-chat, carrying steel tiffin carriers containing idlis either with sugar sprinkled on top or stained with bright orange chutney pudi. They were old enough to be curious about the people around them, and their favorite object of interest was old Amma, who, first of all, wasn't all that old. She might have been only 60 or something, but for teenagers, any woman over 35 is considered an old crone by their yardstick. Old Amma, who lived alone, had been widowed more than 25 years ago. The only person who had ever been inside old Amma's house was Seema Akka, who helped old Amma with her cleaning in the mornings. Seema Akka oddly kept her distance from the rest of the households in the neighborhood. If she worked in any other houses, they weren't on the street. For some reason, the other housewives of the street didn't trust Seema Akka, because they felt she suffered from a superiority complex and considered herself too good to work in their homes. Otherwise, the teenagers were not too inquisitive. Once they knew the basics at least. They knew old Amma had lived most of her adult life, and only one person on the street, an old man, claimed that he had known her husband all those years ago. Old Amma mostly kept to herself. She would wait until a bevy of housewives finished their haggling and then go to the cart alone to buy her vegetables. In the evenings, you'd see her on a slow-paced walk, her eyes so firmly disengaged from what others on the street might be doing that it was intimidating to even greet her with a good evening auntie, as kids unwittingly adopted the awe of the adults in the neighborhood. It was only for the neighborhood to accept old Amma as old Amma. She didn't inspire any particular curiosity, at least not in that gossipy middle-class kind of way. That was, of course, until one of the older boys, Dhanish, spotted a young woman on Amma's terrace. One would have to look up from the street to spot her, not very high up. Old Amma lived in a one-storied house. Her terrace had money plants around around its periphery, and the youth said he saw a woman with a long black hair wearing a loose nightie of sorts. Her face was mostly obscured, but she sang so melodiously that her voice was so clear that one could hear it from the street. At first, all the children scoffed and called Dhanesh a liar for making up such stories because he wanted a girlfriend like Archie Andrews did in all the comic books they had read. But soon they had to swallow their words one by one because they all saw the woman on old Amma's house with long black hair. Some said they even saw strings of jasmine looped in her tresses. Others said they saw her fingers combing through her hair as she oiled it. The only thing the youngsters could agree on was that none of them had seen her face properly and that she hummed in a mostly lovely way. One intrepid boy even threw a small rock at her, trying to get her attention. But she didn't look at them and she just retreated from their view, continuing to hum. Then the adults got involved. It was inevitable. After all, the idea of an unknown young woman with beautiful long hair and the voice of an angel was concerning. She could conceivably seduce at least some of the about-to-be 15-year-old lads in the neighborhood. The older housewives, most of whom were in their 30s, were worried that the lovely young woman could potentially bewitch their husbands. Not that their husbands weren't good men. Decent, all of them, as one popular housewife stated, over filter coffee in a tiny steel cup. She had managed to get 6 other wives into her kitchen, nodding at her every word. Now, our men are not designed to be put to the test by youthful women of marriageable age. Our God protects us, but He has told us, women, the only flaw with men is their weakness for women. It's the one thing we must accept and make sure we take care of ourselves. And just like that, 4 of the 6 women were riled up enough to go and confront old Amma and ask her about the women she had been hiding in her home. So they marched up old Amma's house and called out to her. She emerged quickly from her house, an expression of gentle surprise on her face. She was understandably not used to having neighbors drop in for a chat. The first woman, the self-appointed mouthpiece of the group, put up a syrupy smile and said, "We heard that someone, maybe your niece, is visiting you. It would be lovely to meet her. We are glad you have someone to keep you company." When old Amma pursed her lips, she looked blankly at the housewives. The second woman spoke up. "We hear she is young, of marriageable age perhaps. So you don't want her roaming around in nightgowns where impressionable boys in the locality can see her." Old Amma shrugged. I have no one living with me, she said. The women were taken aback, for they didn't expect outright denial. But my son saw her, thrice already, and in the evenings. Yes, and my daughter too saw her, with long black hair, another quipped, pointing old Amma's terrace. It's just not possible, said old Amma, her voice clipped and sure. She gestured to the door, inviting the women in so they could check for themselves. The most paranoid of the women took her cue to barge into old Amma's home, but it didn't look like anybody was living there. Defeated, the housewives tried to make pleasant conversation and left abruptly as they arrived. Two of the boys in the neighborhood were severely scolded for making up stories. One was slapped so hard he began to cry. Then he ran to the puja room and put his hand on Lord Ganesha and swore he was telling the truth. He received another slap for blasphemy on top of his fibs. It was a month later when Rim Jim, the quietest girl on the street, started to tell a story she had heard. She narrated parts of her distracted mother. She narrated parts of her story to her distracted mother in the afternoon. Amma, there was once a young woman who traveled far across the country to marry the man of her dreams. This young woman was shy like me. It was hard for her to make friends, but she was not lonely because her husband loved her so much. He brought her chocolates and took her to the cinema on Sundays. Sometimes he would take her to eat special meals at MTR Hotel. Rimjim's mother nodded, vaguely impressed by her daughter's storytelling abilities, but a little bit concerned she was talking about love and husbands. But then she was about to turn 13, and it was only natural that she, like all budding teenage girls, would be obsessed with marriage. Amma, the wife, was given a beautiful orange-colored dress. She wore it in the evenings whenever her husband would return from work. One day, when Rimjim's mother was talking to the other housewives, she mentioned Rimjim's stories. The mother who had slapped the boy cocked her head and said, that's what my son said, that the mystery woman who the boys we thought had invented wore an orange-colored dress. Why is Rimjim now starting this all over again? Rimjim's mother knew one thing about her, and it was her absolute inability to lie. So she went back to her daughter, gave her favorite hot chocolate malt mixed with hot milk, and asked her about the story. But I have told you the whole story, Amma, so many times. Maybe I was busy and I didn't hear it completely. Delighted to have her mother's full attention, Rimjim once again narrated the story of the wife who was dearly loved by her husband, of her orange dress and her long black hair. She told her mother at 5:30 every evening, the wife would wait for her husband outside her house until she heard the whirring of his scooter. When he came home, they would smile at each other and then go to the house for their coffee. But then one day, Amma, he died of tuberculosis? Her Amma prompted. Yes, that. And the wife no longer had anyone. So she lived alone for many years. She would tutor children in the evenings, and some children became her friends. Then she became old. So when she feels very lonely, she pretends she is still young. Who told you this story? It's a secret, Amma. I can't tell you that. I promised. Okay, so how does she pretend? She wears a wig of beautiful long black hair, just like the hair she had when she was young. She wears her orange dress and stands on the terrace singing and waiting for her husband to come home from his office.
Amazing. Seriously. How was that? Good? Very interesting. It took me to actual Bangalore days. Seriously. No chappal. Interesting. So that's really interesting. Seriously, I should go through this book now. Okay. So shall we go to the next question? Yeah. So while writers, as a writer, you have been going through many phases. Like when you start to write a book, there will be a lot of research work happening, a lot of planning, putting up your thoughts, and gathering all the information. So how exactly you could manage all that?
So when you're writing a book, you're writing about a lot of other people, perspectives, and things you might not know. So one of my books, like my first book that I wrote, The Body Myth, has a lot about, this is going to sound really random, but it has a lot about French existential philosophy. I don't know anything about that, but for 3 months I went and researched read YouTube. YouTube is such a big resource. And learned everything there was, that my main character could speak like an expert on the subject. Now I've forgotten. Like that's how it works. But at the time I could write that character because I had to sit and research and become that person.
Interesting.
And learn from that perspective. So you can, you have to kind of really, if you can write about what you know, but you can also learn more to write about things that you don't know about.
That's possible then.
It's possible if you do due justice to it. Yes.
Okay. So now, since Rheea, also you've been touching upon a lot of other topics, relevant topics, right? Like based from different religion relationships to the Indians who have been living in US and living in the level, and they have come to India to settle. And also you're talking about LGBT community also. So how is that possible? How could you make that all possible?
So, I write what I see in a life, right? Like I think generally, culturally speaking, we are used to being in a culture of silence. We don't like to talk about a lot of things openly, even though, I think Gen Z is changing that, thank God. They're at least exposed. They're still suffering from our generation's problems though, of being quiet, not opening, you're still inheriting a lot of ideas that have lost their true imagination in the world right now. So it is up to you to kind of push those ideas. And the only way you can do that is to really notice the world outside your own bubble. And that's something we're not taught to do at all. And when I say outside your bubble, not just this superficially, you think what diversity is. No, what does it mean historically, materially, every day, for what does diversity really mean in thought, in action, in people's lives all over the place? Whether you're looking in a city, the entire country, or globally, there's many different ways that we're not taught to think about, and you have to do that work. Because the world's not going to do that for you. We're taught not to do that. You're taught to stay in your little boxes.
Yeah, no. That means we have to develop observational skills also.
Yeah.
A lot of
empathy, observational skills. I think empathy is key. It's what we're missing in this world right now.
Yeah, that is really missing. Yeah. So that
empathy can only come if you can really truly know more about things that would have challenged you or you don't know about. Usually we react with fear. If you don't know about something, you're like, oh, okay, I don't want to talk about that. You get really awkward.
Exactly.
Like, and you just pretend it's not happening, or we don't talk about it. Why? That's just fear.
Very interesting. That's a valid point, actually. And how long did you take to write this book?
I wrote this through the pandemic.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, 2021, 2.5, 3 years, yeah. With the editing and all that stuff. But the first draft about a year and a half.
Year and a half.
Yeah.
So generally it takes almost a year in an average, or how is it? Yeah?
See, some people take years and years. Some people, for me, it's like I write in spurts.
Oh,
so
okay.
like for months I'll get busy, and then for months I won't write at all. There's some very disciplined writers who get up and write every morning. I don't do that.
Oh, okay, all depends.
I write a lot on social media though.
Okay.
On Instagram. That's where I'm the most.
Okay, interesting. Okay, so moving a bit away from your book now, do you have ever come across a writer's block? And if yes, how did you deal with it?
So I think we have writer's laziness, not writer's block. But writer's laziness, writer's block is just your inability to, you can't force it. When your words are not coming out. For me, it's like I write in spurts.
Oh,
so
okay.
like for months I'll get busy, and then for months I won't write at all. There's some very disciplined writers who get up and write every morning. I don't do that.
Oh, okay, all depends.
I write a lot on social media though.
Okay.
On Instagram. That's where I'm the most.
Okay, interesting. Okay, so moving a bit away from your book now, do you have ever come across a writer's block? And if yes, how did you deal with it?
So I think we have writer's laziness, not writer's block. But writer's laziness, writer's block is just your inability to, you can't force it. When your words are not coming out.
Is there a meaning to that? The cover page?
No, so I am very lucky with my designer from Penguin. His name is Gunjan Alawat. He did the cover for this and The Body Myth. And if you look at my other book called The Body Myth, it's got a similar vibe. But it's about, I mean, it kind of represents more of like just shattered identity more than anything else. But yeah, I think that this is my designer's work. I can't take any credit for it. It's beautiful. I love it.
Ma'am, I want to ask whether the story what you explained, is it completely related to the book, like the one story? Is it like the same old Amma story, or it is just an extract in that?
What I read to you is the story, and that's the
Okay,
story
that's
within the story. It's got nothing to do with the main novel. What I read out.
Good morning, ma'am. Can I know which is one of your favorite books and would you suggest that to us?
One of my favorite books. It's actually a graphic novel, and it's called Persepolis.
What's the...
It's about the Iranian Revolution, and it's about a girl growing up during that time. And the author's name is Marijane Satrapi. I'll tell your teacher the name and the picture and send it across.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good morning, ma'am.
Hi.
How do you publish a book and how do you handle rejection from a publisher?
So being a writer is 90% rejection. You have to be okay with that. I've been writing stories since I was 22. I'm 40 years old right now. My first book, Body Myth, got rejected about 45 times. So you cannot be a writer without rejection. So even now, as my second book, I still getting acceptances for different articles or a new book. I'll still get rejections. It's a part and parcel of your life, but only after a few years, after you've built some acceptances with some books and stuff like that, then people think that, oh yeah, you're a writer, ho gaya sab kuch. Nahin, I still deal with rejection. But what you're not seeing is the last 20 years of rejection after rejection after rejection, which means you're writing and which means you're putting it out there. So rejection's got nothing to do with why I've seen people spoil their entire talent because they can't take rejection. Don't ever do that. If you believe you have a talent and you believe you're doing the best you can, and you are pushing yourself, you're learning more, you're changing your perspective every day, then please don't make rejection a reason to quit.
Thank you.
Your motivation gets hit, but you also train psychologically that if you're rejected, then I can't deal with it. No, you have to be persistent.
Ma'am,
Yes.
what's your time period that you took to finish the book, ma'am?
This book, like I said, I finished during the pandemic, 2021. Like it was a year and a half and then another year of editing almost.
For one book, ma'am?
Yeah. This one, my first book was faster, to be honest. I had done it in like 6 months and then editing for another 6 months. Because once your editor gets into it, then it's another process by itself. So, yeah. And I have no patience. Like if you're not a patient person, the worst thing to be is a writer. I am a very impatient person, which is why I have a side, I also have a day job, right? I've always had to have a regular career as well, to just go through life. Yeah, so I've always worked as a writer unfortunately at this time, and I hope that'll change. It is changing in your generation. Creativity you can't really make a life from that unless you're very, very lucky. You can't make a living. So I always used, but I'm still very lucky to have my career in creative communication and branding and things like that, which are offshoots of my writing abilities and skills. But having that regular job also allows you to check in with the real world, get the pulse of what's going on, stabilize yourself, and be able to do what you really love on the side. And full-time sometimes. So I want to plan my life where I'm doing this full-time also, but then I've always had something going on. Yeah.
Any more questions, students?
Morning, ma'am. And my question is, how to publish a book and where to register it, ma'am?
To publish a book, you need to first understand what you're trying to publish, right? Like, are you publishing? Do you want to write fiction? Do you want to write non-fiction? Who's your market? Do you want to write for Indian writers? Do you want to write for what language? English readers? Then you have to get ready to write your book and get rejected a lot. because it's a harsh industry. Nowadays, there's a lot of agents, writing agents, who can represent your work if they like your work. But remember that publishing is a very hard thing to do if you're doing it the traditional way. There's always self-publication, but that's a very, I mean, that anybody can self-publish, right? So, but if you're going to publish your work, you have to be ready for rejection. It's a competitive thing over there, and you have to, there's no real process. It's making a list, it's doing your due diligence, understanding what story you have and how you're pitching that story. Why will people want to read your story? And then it's about emailing editors and agents.
What incident made you feel like I want to become a writer or something?
Too many incidents probably made me think I want to be a writer, but I think when I was working as a social worker in the US for a long time, I just thought I was being part of a system that wasn't changing, and I was just a cog in the wheel. So I think that's when I decided that writing will make more impact.
Hello, ma'am. So how do you draw your inspiration for writing a story, ma'am? For example, if you're writing a fictional story, do you draw the entire world, the entire story in your head, or do you draw the experiences from the real life as well?
Yeah, both. Definitely there's a lens of real life, but I draw the entire thing in my head. But it's very inspired and very true to everyday life.
Any more questions, students?
Hello, ma'am.
Yes, hi.
Can we make a living in novel writing?
You can with different side gigs. If you can, do you have other skills like editing, communicating? You can work in communications, in branding, in teaching. Yes, you can by doing it, but you just have to be a little bit flexible with how you develop your other skills, and you have to be confident. That's it.
Hello, ma'am. May I know what is the initial step to write something, whether it be a story, drama, or anything? What is the initial step to start?
What is the initial step? You tell me. When you feel compelled to write something, that's from that moment you are a writer. If you feel compelled, nobody is forcing you, your parents haven't told you, your teacher hasn't told you, you feel like, I want to respond to something, whether it's from your heart, whether it's to something happening on the outside, but you want to say something. It's a one sentence. Anytime you feel compelled, you don't have a choice, you just have to put it on paper or I don't know, text it to yourself. That's the first step.
Thank you, ma'am.
Ma'am, this is Sashireka. I just wanted to know how Rheea wants to be seen in future. Is she going to be a feminist or a person who is going to do something for the society?
I think I am the same person over the last 20 years. I've been doing a lot of different work. I'm just going to be more of me. I think once you realize...
How you want to see the society, how Rheea needs to be
how
seen
I
by
want
the
to... I can't judge how society will see me. Society can see me in 100 different ways. I can be the villain or the hero. You can be, for everybody, you will be. So all I can tell you is that I have to be more authentic to myself every day and speak my truth. That's it. Thank you.
Ma'am, you told that you have put down stories within stories. And you told that your parents did not have their adult life here in Bangalore, but you did live. So, do you actually relate these stories according to how you have lived here or your observations? Or is it like you are juggling between the two worlds that you just mentioned? Or how is it actually coming out?
Yeah, I mean, it's both. It's definitely, there are narratives in my writing that are just very urban India centric. This is the first book that I've actually talked so much about the US and the India-US connection.
So have you, like you told in the first novel, you researched out of the French
yeah,
idea.
but that happens entirely in India, that book.
Okay.
The body.
So the landscape has been
All
studied
India.
by you?
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Ma'am, how important is to review the book? How important is to review the book? Review the book.
Reviews, yeah. I mean, they're important. I would say they're definitely important. They're probably important. How people respond to your book is, yeah, quite important. Not the only thing. Again, it's like rejection. Some people will give you bad reviews. What are you going to do?
Thank you, ma'am.
Good morning, ma'am. What is your favorite part being a writer?
The favorite part about being a writer is I can go to my room with my laptop and tell everybody to shut up, I'm writing.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, everyone, for your patient listening, and all the best for you, to all of you guys. Take care of yourselves.
Yes, thanks a lot, and one more last question. Any motivational message for young women, budding writers who are still thinking of taking that big step to follow their passion?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to tell you, and especially all the women in this room over here, gender is going to bite you. Gender dynamics in the way the entire world operates. You will always be told that there's something more important for you to be doing. So whatever it is that your heart and your gut wants to do in life, don't be scared of it. The only thing that, I mean, there'll be lots of societal challenges, but there is no secret formula for how did you do this. It is learning to trust yourself over and over and over and over and over again until you're so confident. And that doesn't matter who you are. I'm just saying, women, as a woman, you'll have double the challenges. So say it over and over and over again. That's all.
Very nice, good. Interesting, students. Can we just have a big round of applause, please, with Josh? So, thank you, Rheea, for being here, when you're taking out your precious time from this schedule and making us aware about writing and reading as a passion. So, thanks a lot, college, thanks a lot, Sheshadripuram College, and the teachers and the dignitaries for helping us and, making this event very successful. Thank you so much.
As we draw curtains on this incredible literary journey, it is now time to express our gratitude and appreciation. I extend my heartfelt gratitude to each one of you for making our English literary event a resounding success. Your enthusiasm, participation, and appreciation have truly made this occasion memorable. Thank you for contributing to the vibrant tapestry of words and creativity that defines our literary community. I would like to express sincere thanks to our esteemed chief guest, Ms. Rheea Mukherjee, whose insights enriched our literary event. Special gratitude to Ms. Shilpa, our interviewer, for skillfully navigating the conversations.
Thank you.
Thanks to Chandrasekhar Sir, JK Paper, and the Times of India for their valued collaborations.